Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining our Zoom conference today, presentation today. My name is Mike Sachs. I am presiding judge of San Bernardino County Superior Court. I'm happy to report I'll only be presiding judge for 2 more months. Then I'm going back to my regular assignment as supervising judge of civil. And Judge Monteroso is also on the line. He's our PJ of Riverside County. And unlike me, he's got another year to go before he can go back and do real work. But in any event, thank you all for being here. So we're here to present to you a program involving what we call the Inland County's Judicial Mentorship Program. With me presenting today is Judge Jackson. I'll let her introduce herself. Judge Jackson.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Jackson. I sit in Riverside, currently in a criminal assignment. Starting in January, I'll move to probate, and this is my 11th year on the bench.
Great, thank you, Judge Jackson. So let me give you some historical background as to how we got to where we are. So in 2018, the legislature authorized 13 new positions for the courts in the Inland Empire. We were getting 7 slots, actually 6 slots, excuse me, my numbers are off. And I believe Riverside was getting 5, is that right, Judge Monteroso? 5. So we had 11 positions that have been newly created in the Inland Empire. And both myself, Judge Monteroso, and Judge Vineyard, the prior PJ, have been working with Justice Jenkins, who is the appointment secretary, since we started our respective terms as presiding judge. I started my term January 1st, 2020. I call it the COVID term because that's all I've been doing my entire term. In December of 2020, everybody should know that Justice Jenkins was appointed to the Supreme Court of our state, and Attorney Luis Cespedes was appointed as the appointment secretary for Governor Newsom. He was appointed roughly around December 19th of 2020. Within a few days of that, I reached out to Mr. Cespedes, and I know that Judge Monteroso did as well, to talk about our judicial needs. And I think it was fortuitous that we were both able to reach out very quickly, because we planted a seed in his mind that we were in dire straits in the Inland Empire. We had 11 new judges that had been created for our counties, and we were very anxious in getting those judges appointed. And in the interim, of course, due to COVID, our county had 8 judges retire. So if you take a look at the 6 judges that we were authorized, plus the 8 judges that retired, we now had a need of 14 judges in our county. And just Judge Jackson, Judge Monteroso, how many retirements did you have in Riverside?
You want me to answer that, Jacqueline, or do you got it?
Answer.
Well, let me put it to you this way. At one point earlier this year, with retirement vacancies, as well as vacancies that still existed from the new judgeships that were part of the 2019 Budget Act, we had 8 judgeships that were vacant, plus 3 commissioner spots that have been vacant. At this time, we now have 4 judgeships vacant, but we do anticipate 3 additional retirements that will be effective late 2021, early 2022. And that's on top of, and Judge Sachs didn't say this, that's also on top of the fact that San Bernardino needs 43 additional judges to actually do the work that the Judicial Council says they need to do the work, and we need 30 additional judgeships to do the work that we have. But that's, I guess, beside the point.
The long and short of it is both counties are in dire need of judges. We currently have significant openings, and we're likely to have a couple of more openings, a few more openings the next year, starting at 2022. So in our discussions with Mr. Suspaitis, he brought up the fact that he was very interested in appointing, recruiting qualified and diverse applicants, and he suggested that we join with LA County, who had developed a Judicial Applicant Mentorship Program. Judge Monterosa and I can tell you that we've had an informal program for years and years and years in both of our counties. Many of you may know this, but some of you may not. So when I became a judge, one of our judges here in San Bernardino came up to me and said, "Hey, Mike, you'd be a good judge. Why don't you submit your application? And if you have any questions or comments, let me know. I'll be happy to help you out." That's kind of how it worked in our county. I'm pretty sure it worked the same way in Riverside County. Now, the problem with that is that many of our judges in both counties at the time were over the age of 40. They were white, and they were typically appointing people that they personally thought would be good colleagues. Well, I think an unintended consequence of that is the lack of diversity we now have in both counties. So LA has this program where they established a formal mentorship program where they actually encourage qualified diverse candidates to apply to their county. And they are working with other counties doing the same thing. LA County has 500 judges, their largest court from that perspective in the state of California, of course. And so they have many judges who can serve as mentors to applicants who have the same legal background, cultural background, national background that the judges have in LA. And so Mr. Suspaitis was of the belief that would be great for both Riverside and San Bernardino County to join LA County and participate in their program. I thanked him for that advice, and of course he was the man who's going to be appointing judges to both of our counties, so I did not want to disappoint him, nor did Judge Monterosa want to disappoint him, since we recently made contact with him. But I was not interested in joining with Los Angeles County. Their culture is totally different from the Inland Empire. They are the elephant in the room. Typically, when you're partnering with LA County, it's usually their way. You have to do things, not our way. So Judge Monterosa and I spoke, and we both agreed that since Mr. Suspaitis was very supportive of this type of a program, that we should start that program, and that we would join forces and form the Inland Empire Judicial Applicant Mentorship Program. So there's only 2 mentorship programs currently in Southern California. There may be only 2 really in the state that are formalized. That would be LA Counties, and it would be the Inland Now Counties Judicial Mentorship Program. After Riverside and San Bernardino got together, we were approached by Imperial County, who has a need for mentors since they have a small bench and they have many folks who are interested in becoming judges. So they asked if they could join our program, and we of course said yes. So Judge Edward Kwan is a representative of Imperial County who is on this committee. I am on the committee for San Bernardino, and I will remain on the committee even after my term as PJ expires. So I've talked to our incoming presiding judge, and he would like me to do that. And then Judge Jackson is the representative from Riverside County who is heading up their program. So that's why Judge Jackson and I are here, letting you know about our programs. One of the reasons why I thought it was very important for us to have something like this program is that when Mr. Suspaitis is interested in appointing somebody to our court, or in the case of Riverside, he would reach out to the presiding judge. He would reach out to me. He would reach out to Judge Monterosa. And at the point where he is reaching out to us, the attorney has submitted their application to the governor's office. Mr. Suspeitas has sent that application, we call it a PDQ, that's the formal term that he uses, personal data questionnaire. He sends that attorney to the local JSAT, it's a Judicial Evaluation Committee. We have one in the Inland Empire that serves both of our counties. It's made up of judges from both counties. It's made up of representatives from the DA's office and the PD's office. And it's chaired by Justice Lau, who of course is a justice with our appellate court. They get the application, they look at it, they do an investigation, they just give facts to Mr. Suspeitas about what the references have said. Occasionally, Mr. Suspeitas will ask them for a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but that's not usually his MO. But when he gets these comments back from the local evaluation committee, he takes a look at it, and then he makes a determination as to whether or not, in his mind, this is a candidate that he feels comfortable recommending to the governor. But before he does that, the first call he makes is usually to the PJ of the court. That would be me, that would be Judge Monterosa. And the first question I will hear, and Judge Monterosa can back me up on this, maybe his experience is differently, is Mr. Suspeitas asks, do you know this applicant, Stephen Gassner? And he expects a response from me. Part of the purpose of this mentorship program is for the prospective candidate or appointee to meet with the PJ or the PJ's designee. So when we get that phone call, we can say, yes, I know Mr. Gassner. I've met him. And then the next question is, well, what do you think about him being on your bench as a colleague? So this judicial mentorship program is really geared towards you as an interested applicant in either of our court, a qualified interested applicant, and we're there so that you feel comfortable coming to our court. And what I mean by that is I have heard from other judges who now work in and around the Inland Empire, and some diverse candidates have been reluctant in the past coming out to the Inland Empire because of some cultural aspect that they have become aware of that suggests perhaps diverse candidates are not welcome in the IE. That's not the case. Now, that was an eye-opening statement made by me because I practiced in the Inland Empire ever since I've been an attorney. I've got to know all these judges, and I never thought in my mind that any of these judges, where there was a culture out there that was biased against diverse candidates. But, you know, I don't know, maybe that's white privilege, the thing they talk about. You know, I've never had the, I've never been exposed to that, so I would not know. So the idea behind the mentorship program is to have judges who can help you through the application process, that you would be comfortable talking to, that perhaps comes from the same practice area that you have practiced in the past, the same ethnicity, a religious background, LGBTQ plus, whatever. The idea is that we have somebody here as a judge that an applicant would be comfortable discussing his or her movement through the process with. And the idea is to get the word out. We are not that way. Both of our courts were open arms to anyone who is qualified, who is willing to serve on our bench, regardless of race, nationality, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, whatever their circumstances. Our courts are not that way. Our courts, if you worked out here in the Inland Empire and have been an attorney out here in the Inland Empire for most of your career, you know that it's a very close-knit legal community between the judges and the attorneys. And frankly, it's a great place to be practicing law. It's a great place to be a judge. And the whole idea behind this program is for us judges to assist the applicants as they navigate the process. And so that's why we are here. That's why we've created this program. That's why we've invited Imperial County to participate. We would extend that invitation to any Southern California county if they were interested in doing it. So that's how we got here. I'm going to turn it over to Judge Jackson, who's going to go over a PowerPoint that she has for us that she's prepared. And then we'll have some time at the conclusion to answer any of your questions. What I want to emphasize is that this mentorship program is not an opportunity for us as mentors to advocate on your behalf. That is not what this is about. This is about you as an applicant having a resource to go to when people start telling you, you know, if you really want to be appointed in San Bernardino, you have to change your political party to become a Republican. That was advice I received when I submitted my application. Well, I'm a Democrat. I was appointed by a Republican governor. But as somebody going through this process, you don't know who to talk to, who to listen to, what you're being told is accurate or not. And the mentor is there to, again, demystify that. So Judge Jackson, all yours.
Thank you. And I'm not sure, Ms. Partridge, if the PowerPoint was sent ahead of time. If not, that's fine, but people
No,
are.
it was not.
Okay. Let me see if this opens me to the right screen. I think that's it. Does everyone see Inland County's Judicial Mentor Program on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I know you are all very well read. I will not read to you. You are welcome to a copy if you'd like. I don't think Ms. Partridge would mind forwarding that to you if you request it. Would that be okay?
Of course, I can put it in the chat right now.
Oh, thank you so much. And so specifically in Riverside, at this time, we have 19 judge mentors and 13 mentees. So I say that to indicate there is room for you. We have space. And as we each take a mentee, we will continue to add. So we're not limited to 19, but we have plenty of room. In Imperial, Judge Kwan was not able to join us today, but I know he's also meeting with prospective individuals who are interested in applying to that bench, as well as he's open to referring people in Imperial up here. So he's not able to be present with us, but we're all cooperative and working together. So Judge Sachs did indicate the purpose of our program. So we do want to create pathways for those interested. He did indicate we wanted to demystify the process. I believe Governor Newsom is the first governor that made that JSAC committee public. Before that, that was sort of the Star Chamber or the secret committee. Now they're all listed on the governor's website. So it is to demystify them. And then the governor also wants to receive applications that better reflect the communities that our benches serve, right? And so for our program, and I'll be specific to San Bernardino, Riverside, Imperial, Judge Sachs can correct me or add things that San Bernardino may be doing uniquely or differently. There is a state program. You are not precluded from joining the state mentorship program if you join one of ours. Oh, there's a slide that says we're meant to complement, but they may have some restrictions that our counties do not, right? We want to cast a wide net and bring as many in as we can that are interested in the bench to assist with that process. So for us, it's any attorney in good standing with the bar. I believe the state says 10 years, but we are taking people younger with fewer years, I should say, than that in Riverside. I have one at 7, and I know I have one at about 8.5. We're looking for diversity of practice area as well. As Judge Sachs may have indicated, traditionally, many public defenders, DAs, county counsel have come to the bench. All great. We need more in-house counsel, family law attorneys, school law attorneys, probate attorneys. We want a diversity of practice area. So you are not excluded if you haven't come from one of those traditional governmental agencies. Okay. And then we also have generally worked out, and this may differ a bit in San Bernardino, but our goal is to meet about 4 times a year, Zoom, in-person, telephone. Riverside County, like San Bernardino, is very large geographically. I believe San Bernardino is the largest geographic county in our nation, very broad. And so in my county, we start our courthouses in Corona, which borders Orange County, and we go all the way to the Arizona border in Blythe. So we're also very long. So we're very flexible about how we meet, right? We don't expect everybody to come to us or meet us exactly, downtown Riverside. In Riverside, we're holding the process confidential. Sometimes people run into issues with colleagues who may not be enthusiastic or supportive about the shift to the bench. So until the applicant or mentee tells us they're sharing it with others, we do not mention they're part of our program. And then once again, like Judge Sachs said, there's no advantage. If you don't participate in the program, you're at no disadvantage for getting appointed. But we do want to be here to help. And then we are not advocates, so we cannot endorse the mentee. For that reason, one of the things I do in our application and Riverside request is whether you're already working with a bench officer or if they're mentoring you. If you are, I avoid pairing you with them. That way they can continue to actually help be an advocate. They might be a reference. They might write you a good letter of reference. Those things are difficult if they're also your mentor, right? So we're not supplanting them. We're trying to complement what you're already working on. These qualities of a good judicial officer do not come from our counties. These come from the governor's office, from his appointment secretary. So you can see what they're looking for. And those are all qualities that I know you have as practicing lawyers. It's just a matter of getting some of those things down on paper to communicate that you have those skills. So sometimes writing them out just helps us focus on them a little bit as you're going through the process. And we've been told that public service, the civic-minded person committed to community service, is very, very important for this governor. So here I've noted the Riverside website. It's different for Judge Sachs. Do you want to mention how they might get into your program? Do they contact you?
I think, Judge Jackson, we may have a slide on here. I think I added that.
Oh, did you add one in? Okay.
I thought I did, but if not, you can go to the County of San Bernardino Superior Court site and you'll see a heading for the mentorship program. There's an application, which is the same one that the Riverside is using, just the appearance may be a little different because our platform is a little different. But you go fill that out. And then your name gets forwarded to me, the PJ. And then the way it works initially is that you'll be scheduled to have a meeting with me. And then I'll talk to you, get to know you a little better, go over what's important. And then we'll talk about a mentor, if you'd like a mentor, and I can suggest to you certain names, or if you as an applicant have worked with judges in the past and would prefer one of those, you can let me know and we can have that conversation. And at that point in time, it's between you, the applicant, and your mentor.
And then here in Riverside, once we have the application, that gets forwarded to Judge Monteroso's secretary and to me. I'll review it to see who is available that might be a good pairing. I'll inquire to make sure they don't feel there's a conflict. Either you're already working with them or maybe appearing frequently in front of them, something like that. And then that bench officer will reach out to you to set up the first meeting. For Imperial, Judge Kwan, I believe, has the same application that Riverside and San Bernardino are using. We shared that. That will be sent to Judge Kwan, and then he'll route it through. You can apply for more than one county. And so if you have significant contacts, you can apply for more than one. It might seem odd if you're applying for Ventura and you've never worked there, have no family there, don't live there. But if you have contacts in between counties, which is frequent, I actually live in San Bernardino County, I sit in Riverside. So if you have contacts that are shared, you can apply to more than one, and that's on the app. And so I did note here that if you want to apply for a position in the other county, if you reach out to one of us, we can connect you with that. So there was a meeting, I believe in spring, although all of my COVID days run together. So I think it's spring, that the governor's appointment secretary's assistant, JSAC, and Jenny all had representation come to. It was a Zoom meeting. And they were sharing the things they were looking for in an application. So we boiled those down to our quote top tips. So this is not our program speaking directly. This is what they're looking for at the appointment time. So one thing they emphasize is to start the application now. When you go to the governor's website, there is a Word version that you can download. They call it the worksheet. It's a little thick, not nearly as thick as your application will be when you finish, but it looks like this. I think that's in there. And you can just download that from the governor's page. When you do that, you'll get a 14-page document that is essentially a replica of what you'll be filling out online when you're ready to apply. But this will walk you through what you need and is sort of critical to beginning your process. I'm going to give a bit of a caveat. Some of these seem evident, but they are issues that the governor's office has said they see with applications. So that's why they're replicated here. So that's the spirit they're meant in. He emphasized plain text. When there's any underlining, italics, fancy script, it does not translate to the online Word document you're ultimately going to be submitting. It may scramble, or it may just make your text illegible. So he said, Word, plain text. One thing that you want to make sure you do is to print it out, proofread it, and have others proofread it. So I have two brief examples. One is that someone whose application I know looked just fine online, printed a copy for me to read, everything scrambled. So she literally had answers under strange questions. She went from her work desktop to her MacBook, back to her desktop, which was Microsoft, and it shifted everything. So thankfully she printed it out, because when the governor printed it out, it would have all been shifted. She was able to repair it or fix it. Someone else had wanted to emphasize a specific kind of criminal trial and had capitalized the words death penalty everywhere. It seemed fine to her on the screen, but when printed out, it was not easy to read. It just sort of like yelled at everybody all over and took away a little bit from the balance of the application. So sometimes just reading it on paper, I'm old fashioned, I read on paper. I know many do the computer, but I'm going to recommend at least one time printing it out and proofreading it before it gets sent up to Sacramento. Edit ruthlessly. This is why you also need people that you very much trust to proofread. Just edit. They said one of the things that they see are spelling errors, fragmented sentences, things of that nature. If it's hard to read the prose, they stop reading. So just best foot forward, edit real careful. And then once you've worked in the document that you printed out, so you can copy that worksheet to your Word program, fill that out. Once it's done and you're content, in one session, sit, cut, and paste it into the online governor application. And I've been asking my fellow bench officers, including a few who were very recently appointed in the last month or so, how long it's taking. It took me about an hour and a half to do that, and they said for them it was close to the same. So just maybe plan a block of time to have your Word document open, your governor's application open, and then just move them. And I'm going to recommend not doing a whole lot in between and just move it till it's there. So that way nothing shifts on you. And then also they focused on making, sort of highlighting what makes you unique. I guess that is the best way to put it. So any life experience that can make you unique, any, whatever it is that makes you you. They're really looking for individuals. And then also, of course, legal acumen, work ethic, the things that he was mentioning, temperament and demeanor are real important. So if there's a way to communicate that, I think that's helpful. Okay. And of course, we want to keep our good reputations once we build them, right? People will be evaluating as we go. And so Judge Sachs did mention the personal data questionnaire. This is read by the governor's office, JSAC, and Jenny. So it's a very broad audience, and they had some specific recommendations about that questionnaire. So the best piece of advice I think we heard was to answer every question broadly and over disclose. The background check for judges is deep, really deep. They're going to find everything out anyway. Just tell them everything up front. So just over disclose, don't skip any questions. I've seen this in questionnaires where, for example, a commissioner who'd been sitting a very long time had indicated that they couldn't recall all of the information requested in the app. So some questions were completely blank. That is not acceptable to the governor's office. So that person needed to go back and fill in that information. So just make sure there are no empty questions. If there's any gap in work experience or history or any difficult situation, you have all the pages you need to explain it. Just explain it thoroughly and be very candid. Okay. And there had been a very big emphasis on trial experience over time with a lot of different administrations. So this wasn't unique to one. If there is not significant trial experience, because not every judicial position deals with trials. We have juvenile, which is court trial. We have family, they do not have jury trial. So it's not every court works the same in terms of the assignment. So if there isn't a lot of trial experience, there is a question in there that will ask you about other significant kinds of cases. They'll talk about settlements, as well as other cases you've handled. So just focus on rules of evidence, procedural rules, and the most critical thing I think is the ability to make decisions in compressed timeframes, because that's literally what we do every day. I remember as a lawyer, I'd get frustrated when judges would take like everything under submission because I thought literally your title is judge. Like you have to make a decision, right? So that is the entire job. The entire job is decision making. So if you're able to just do that in a compressed time frame and communicate that through the application, that will be very helpful. And so letters of reference are not required, but they may be helpful. So if you choose to send them, send only 2 to 5. More than that, they'll get a little bit lost in the shuffle. And do it right after your application's gone in, so they can link everything back up together. And then once again, these are tips from the governor's office, things that they saw, but they should be people who know your work and professional reputation. It's also helpful if they know specifically that you're applying to be a judge. So you don't necessarily want a to whom it may concern letter. You want a letter focused on what will make you a good bench officer. If you're using someone as a reference, because there's a letter of rec which will be sent up, but also if you look at the application, there's an area where you list 5 references, personal references. Make sure they know they're listed. When I was sitting on our commissioner committee, I think on 2 different individuals, every single reference I called said, oh, they want to be a bench officer? Oh, that's surprising. Not necessarily a negative, but not necessarily what you want someone to say when you want that position, right? So just make sure they know you're applying. They have had people use relatives as references. Don't do that. So we just want our professional references. I did have an interesting question about 2 weeks ago. Someone asked if one of them would maybe be someone who knew your community service and how hard you'd worked in that area. I hadn't thought about that, but that didn't seem like a bad idea. And one of our recently appointed bench officers, she was appointed judge about a year ago, had someone that she had worked on a long-term community project with write one of her letters, and they mentioned that at her Jenny interview, how impressed they were with that experience. So it's an option, right? You're only sending a few, but it's not a bad option, especially with the governor's office focused on that issue. And so also when you go through, they'll ask you for contact information, for references, opposing counsel. State bar website's one of the easy ways to get those. For judicial officers, we get a guide. If you cannot find them and really need them, you can contact me through that email that was there. I will look them up for you, but please just do not leave them blank, because no one else will look them up for you, and they do want to speak to all of those people. So if you have sent in your application and more than a year has gone by, the governor's office recommends updating your experience with them. So either sending an updated letter. If you decide you no longer wish to participate in the process, you can send a letter of withdrawal. But if you are interested, send an updated letter and maybe an additional letter of reference or something with the experience in between the first application and the second contact. So there's no deadline to become a mentee. Our applications are accepted on a rolling basis. Okay, so when people are ready to come in, we take their app, we review. Is that the same in San Bernardino, Mike? It sounds like it.
Yes, it's the same.
Okay, and it's the same for Imperial as well. So we're rolling through. And then we do our best to pair people with common factors. We've mentioned the expanse of our counties, and Imperial similar. It's smaller in population, but real long and crosses a lot of area. So it may not be exactly someone with aligned interest, but it will be someone interested in helping you put your best foot forward to get to the bench, right? That part we can guarantee. We try to get every mentor a mentee and every mentee a mentor. I have only had one individual I have not been able to pair. And that's only because of the amount of litigation that was pending around the cases he was handling. All of my mentees that could have been available to him all had conflicts. So between cases in this court and our appellate court, it just would have created some problems. But everyone else, we've been able to pair. Has that worked fine for you as well in San Bernardino?
Yeah, let me just point out that part of the reason, the rationale for our three courts to get together is that there's an understanding that perhaps we would not have enough mentors for the mentees for whatever the reason may be. So for instance, Judge Jackson can call me up and say, hey, Judge Sachs, do you have a judge mentor available for this particular applicant, and vice versa? And that's the other reason why we've kind of joined forces. But we try to have a mentor for everyone. I've had 20 people submit applications to become mentees in our county. I've had no problem finding mentors. Many of the judges in San Bernardino are very interested in participating in the program. So that has not really been an issue in our county.
Excellent, excellent. And then I think your county is also in a line with ours that if someone's already applied for a judicial appointment, they're still able to come in and be a mentee. They may not have heard back. They may be waiting to see if they'll be jennied, and that's okay with your county as well.
Yeah, so I've had a number of folks come in who submitted applications actually when Justice Jenkins was the appointment secretary, and I haven't heard anything, and they were getting concerned. And my response to them is, and I use myself as an example, I applied in 2005. I had a Jenny and governor interview within 6 months of my application. And then nothing happened for 2 years. So it was about 2 years before I was even appointed. And who knows what the rationale is or why they do what they do. But I let folks know that if you'd like a mentor to help you through these rough times as a resource to answer questions, happy to fix you up with one. Also, the mentor is available before you submit your application to help you with your application, review it, and give you some creative input. So you could have a mentor at any time during that whole process in our county.
Ours as well. We don't limit it. And there we go. And so I talked a little bit about this at the beginning. Our programs are meant to work with any other mentor or program you're working with, not supplant. So if you're already working with the Bar Association or the judge, that's fine. We'll help in the way that we're able to. And Judge Sachs had mentioned that there isn't, and I think I did as well, a preference in the judicial appointment process for those that have gone through a mentorship program. So it's not designed to give anyone an inside track, but just to help prepare career development and getting towards the application. And then additionally, as we all know, every governor has term limits, right? That's just what we do in California. But our programs, as Judge Sachs said, existed before the formal program, and we anticipate and would very much like them to exist well after. So regardless of who may be elected at any given period of time to lead our state, our programs, as well as Imperial, intend to keep working with individuals who want mentees, mentors, and want to join the bench. So we don't anticipate ending, whenever the next cycle of elections come. And I think that's it for the slideshow. I'm going to turn that off so we can all see each other. I think that worked. Okay.
So let me just add a couple of comments or follow up on what Judge Jackson said, how we do things in San Bernardino that are slightly different. First, if anyone's interested in becoming a judge, whether they are a brand new lawyer or a lawyer who's been around for 30 years and is thinking about becoming a judge, I am willing to talk to them. We talk, a lot of folks who are 5-year lawyers, they're trying to figure out, well, I need to start thinking about my future. What is it that I really want to do? Maybe I should think about becoming a judge. I sure would like to talk to somebody about that. Well, our internship programs are there for that purpose. This really is a recruiting tool. I'm not going to be shy about it. It's very important for Judge Monteroso, myself, and Judge Jackson that when the governor is looking to appoint attorneys to judge spots in the IE, that the attorneys are coming from the Inland Empire. I am not particularly interested in seeing an attorney from LA who's never been to Riverside or San Bernardino to become a judge in our counties. And there's an interesting experience. Maybe Judge Jackson will talk about it, maybe she won't, but we recently had a mentee that made his way or her way, I'm not sure which it was, to Riverside County to become a mentee in Riverside. And that person had no contacts at all with the Inland Empire. Apparently somebody made a comment, and Judge Jackson, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is your story I'm stealing, I think. Or maybe Judge Marquez's, but I think it was your story. But the person was told by an LA judge, if you want to get appointed, go out to the Inland Empire. Okay, that's not what this internship program mentorship program is about. It's about developing talent from the Inland Empire, people who have been here and practiced here for at least 10 years, because that's what the minimum requirements are to become a judge, and then serving the community that they practiced in. I'm not interested in an LA lawyer sitting on my bench when they have no contacts at all. And it's the same, frankly, comment I have made to the appointment secretary when it comes to the appellate positions. Historically, the appellate justices in the 4th District, our division out here in Riverside, have come from Riverside and San Bernardino. Recently, that has not been the case. Recently, there's been appointments coming from LA who have had no contact at all with our communities. Now, I've made it abundantly clear to Mr. Suspedis that we, the judges and the attorneys, are not supportive of that type of appointment. But again, this is kind of a recruitment tool for us to develop personnel. So when there is a need, the judges who are making decisions or who have influence in both of our courts can relate to the governor, the appointment secretary. Yeah, we know this person. They've been in our mentorship program for X amount of years, even before they were interested, and they'd be great colleagues. Appoint them. That's the purpose of what we do here. And so I have no problem talking to somebody who's not quite there yet to submit their app, but they're thinking about it, because that's somebody that potentially is going to be an asset to our court. And then those of you who have submitted the app and haven't heard, you know, I've been there. I went into this twilight zone for a year and a half after I met with the governor's office, trying to figure out what it was that I did or didn't do, or what do I need to do further to get it done. And you're going to talk to 100 people, and 100 people are going to give you different opinions. You know, that if you have a mentor, somebody you're comfortable with, hopefully that relationship will be a benefit to you when you have those questions. That's all I have. Anybody have any questions? You know what, before we do, we have Judge Monteroso. I want to give him a shot. He is the current PJ of Riverside. And so Judge Monteroso, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'll be really brief because I know I saw a hand or two pop up and I don't want to take away their time, but I want to follow up just really quickly on some of the basic premise of the program. And I know both Judge Sachs and Judge Jackson had touched on this. And I also want to make sure I publicly thank both of them, especially my colleague, Judge Jackson, who took this task upon herself and has done a great job from our court's perspective and this whole Inland County's program's perspective. And I really appreciate all that's been done. It's very dynamic. We have a lot of judges that are very involved in this. And the reason for it is because there is a critical need for qualified applicants from a diverse background from all aspects of their background, lifestyle, professional, ethnic background, etc., to apply and eventually be appointed to the bench in both counties. So it's critically important, and that's why our judges are so enthusiastic about this. But I want to touch on the fact that the basic premise is this: like when I became a judge, it was not even something that was in my mind until a judge, a criminal judge that I appeared in front of regularly, approached me and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about being a judge?" No, I haven't. And next thing I know, he's helping me out, giving me some guidance. And because I was a prosecutor, I knew a lot of judges who I was able to talk to, who I had relationships with, and they gave me guidance. So I was already comfortable knowing that there were others I could approach. Well, unfortunately, a lot of people come from a background or a career that doesn't lend themselves to having those kind of contacts. And so they oftentimes self-select out of the process and don't apply and don't think they could be judges because it didn't enter their mind like it never entered mine. This program is designed to reach out to bar associations like this one to say, look, think about it. Because your practice area and your background shouldn't select you out of the process. You should think about it. And so please, even if you're not serious about it right now, but you think you may want to, that's why this program is here. Because once you get in and you have a mentor, now you have someone you could talk to that you may not have had before. So that's what I want to emphasize. And lastly, one thing I'll also say, it is really important, as Judge Sachs said, that if you do apply to make an appointment with the presiding judge of whatever court you're applying to, I know Judge Jackson and the mentors in Riverside are telling that to their mentees that they should call me up. And it's not because Judge Sachs and myself and Judge Kwan and Imperial don't have some magic power or influence with the appointment secretary. It's not like we're king and queen makers here. We're not. But it is important that we at least know who you are, so that we can at least say, yeah, I met with that person. And if the appointment secretary hears that you didn't even make the effort to talk to the PJ, it's probably not going to look that good. And also, I just want to put this caveat out there, and that is about letters of recommendation. I've been approached by some applicants asking if I would write a letter or do something for them. Well, I'm very reluctant. In fact, I personally won't do it unless I already know you from pre-existing experience and can attest to your good characteristics to be a judge. And that's primarily because, A, if I don't know you, I really can't write a good letter of recommendation. But also, Mr. Cespedes has rightly made it clear that if they get a letter from somebody who really doesn't know the candidate, it's probably going to be a strike against you. They want people who really know you, whether it's, again, somebody you've done community service with or somebody you've worked closely with. So I just put that out there that don't think Judge Sachs and I can write a magic letter for you, especially if we really don't know you. So I'll open it up for the questions that you guys can have.
Judge Melvin, I saw you had your hand up.
I did. First of all, I just want to thank Judge Jackson, Judge Sachs, and Judge Monteroso for having this seminar on the Judicial Mentorship Program. I am so grateful. I really want to submit my application to be a mentee, to receive a mentor, because one, I live in San Bernardino County, and my interest is in being appointed to serve in somewhere in the Inland Empire. And I think it's just really helpful to connect with San Bernardino County, Riverside County lawyers, attorneys, and judges. So I want to thank you guys. I personally never saw myself as even wanting a Superior Court appointment until I talked with Judge Sachs almost 6-7 years ago. Just something that was not even in my realm of thought or purview, just completely not something that I would have considered until he mentioned it. And so I am grateful to you, Judge Sachs, for planting that seed in my mind that, well, maybe that's something I could do. But I would like to ask this question. I have worked primarily for the state of California as an administrative judge with various agencies. And although I've done work that I believe I can convey to a Ginny Commission and to you all that kind of translates to a judge, or the work that a judge would do in civil work or as a criminal law judge, my question is, how do I convey my experience to you all when I've worked primarily as an administrative judge? So that's one question. And then the second question, I joined the Western Bar Association, and I'm hoping that I'll get emails about events that I can attend to meet other attorneys in San Bernardino County. But my question is, how do I connect with the community? Because I kind of feel like I'm a little bit disconnected, having been an administrative judge and not practicing or litigating in either San Bernardino County or Riverside County.
Those are all good questions. I'll give you my 2 cents, and then I'll kick it over to Judge Monteroso and Judge Jackson. This appointment secretary and this governor, I think more than any other governor and appointment secretary in the past, has really emphasized the fact that you don't necessarily have to be a trial attorney, one who goes to and does jury trials once a week or once a month, to become a judge in the state of California. Justice Jenkins also was of that belief. And again, Justice Jenkins was the appointment secretary under the same Governor Newsom. And what he has said, and we've had this conversation I've had with both appointment secretaries, is they've got some core qualities that they look for. They look for humility. in the attorneys that they're interested in appointing. They look to their life experiences outside the courtroom. They look to their community activities outside of legal connections. They look to the candidate's ability to understand California Code of Civil Procedure, Criminal Procedure, and the rules of court. There's a understanding that many attorneys who come up in the world of civil practice, family law practice, or probate or business, that they go work for a law firm and their clients only want the partners to try the cases, not the new lawyers. So you can be an attorney at a law firm for 10, 15 years and not have any jury experience because the partner's been around and maybe you got to carry the briefcase in the court once or twice, but there's an understanding and they appreciate that. And they are specifically looking for those type of candidates to actually serve as judges. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Regarding the community connection, I think, you, Judge Melvin, you and I've had this conversation. Join the bar associations. If you belong, I know you have a daughter and that you're very much involved, and perhaps you belong to a PTA. That's perfect. I would also refer you to one of the affinity bar associations, the Richard Fields Bar Association. And I know that Judge Jackson is very much involved in that. And actually, we're going to be talking to them in a couple of weeks. But these are, folks that you get exposure to. You want to be known in a community because you know what? When you go to Jenny, they're going to ask you for 150 people who could say something nice about you. And, you want them to be folks in the community and hopefully in a bar association who know who you are. They've seen your face, they've seen what you do. And it all kind of falls into place once you have all those things lined up. Judge Jackson?
I had an additional thought, and pardon me for checking Google while we were talking, but I was part of our Inn of Court here in Riverside for quite a while. And I knew that San Bernardino had a very active one. I just had to grab the name of the inn. So in San Bernardino, the Joseph B. Campbell American Inn of Court, right? And we've had quite a few. I'm going to say, John, if I'm not wrong, I think 3 of our last 5 appointments are all members of local Inns of Court. Right? It's a large roster of people who know you. It's a civility group and a professional group. So they get to know you as you work together, you have dinner maybe once a month. Here in Riverside, there are teams. I think in San Bernardino, it's a bit more open with dinners, but it's a good place to meet peers and people to get to know you. So that would be one of my recommendations in addition to the affinity bars.
Yeah, that's great.
I loved my time in the Inn. I'm still alumni. I'm not active all the time anymore, but it's a good experience.
I used to be a member of the Leo Deegan Inn of Court myself way back when.
Yeah.
Riverside. Yeah.
And it had also dawned on me as Judge Melvin was talking, there are quite a few people that once say were U.S. attorneys. Federal law is not at all in common with anything California law based, but they'll come over and maybe get appointed to the California bench, or they were state court judges and they'll go to the federal bench or vice versa. So I don't know that it's always the subject matter of what you're presiding over. The skill of what you do is the same. You still adjudicate in terms of you make your decisions, adjudicate's not the right word, my apologies. But you make your decisions, you make your rulings, you may write your orders, you may do them orally, but you're doing judicial work. So just translating that into whatever the application seeking will go a long way, but the skills are the same.
And the application is going to solicit that information, Judge Melvin. So you'll be forced to let them know what you've done and they're going to have to read it. So it's just the application lends itself. Judge Monteroso, you have any?
Just a real quick addition, just a general comment about that. One of the things I've noticed about newer judges who struggle when they get to the bench initially is they weren't prepared for the decision-making that they were going to have to make. And it seems counterintuitive that they didn't realize that when you become a judge, all you're doing is making decisions, but it's true. And so, yeah, I think with Judge Melvin's experience, I don't think that's going to be an issue. You've been doing that. But I urge anyone who's thinking about becoming a judge to really think hard about, do I want to spend all day making decisions? Am I that kind of person? Because some people don't want to make decisions. You know, it's much easier not to. So I just urge you to really examine that, because that's what this job is. It's decision making constantly.
Other questions?
I was thinking to follow up with John. The joke among our new judges is they don't even decide what's for dinner anymore because they've made decisions all day long. So it is literally the job.
I could relate to that.
But that's what it was like when I was doing family law, and I'd get home at night. What do you want for dinner? And I just explode. It's like, I don't care.
You make the decision. Anybody else have any questions? Comments? Well, I would invite you all to take a look at the application that's available on our websites, both Riverside, San Bernardino, and Imperial, if you're interested. I do want to make one comment, and this is a slight change from when Justice Jenkins was the appointment secretary and Mrs. Cespedes was the appointment secretary, and that is this. Justice Jenkins was okay with you applying from San Bernardino and Riverside County, but when it came down to it, he would force you to make a choice. Do you want Riverside? Do you want San Bernardino? And he wouldn't necessarily tell you what he was looking for. It's like, you just didn't know what the future was going to hold. How you answered that question. Mrs. Cespedes is totally different. He understands that the counties are adjacent to each other, that the lawyers practice in both counties, that there's close relationship between the bars of both counties. And he is okay with you applying for Riverside and San Bernardino. In fact, we had two appointments, Joe Whitman and Joe Ortiz, who actually I never even met. Joe Whitman was a U.S. attorney in Riverside, and Joe Ortiz was a partner at BB&K. And they ended up being appointed to our bench. And it was unique for Mr. Cespedes because he never asked me about those two. Maybe there was some secret reason, I don't know. This Riverside attempt to take over San Bernardino, who knows. But in any event, feel free to apply to both. If you want to apply to San Diego and LA at the same time, that's going to be okay. So feel free to, fill out the application, be a mentee. If you're interested, you'll get an opportunity to meet with me in San Bernardino and at least Judge Jackson and perhaps Judge Monterosso in Riverside. Yeah, Judge Melvin, feel free to reach out to me if you need some more specific info. Be happy to talk to you. Anybody else? Lindsay, anything from you? Are we okay to call it a meeting?
I think we can go ahead and wrap it up. I just wanted to mention real quick too, in the chat, there's a link to the application and more information, just so everybody knows, a quick way to get to it.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. It was good to see you all. Good luck if you do choose to submit applications to become judge. Of course, you can always run for an election. You don't have to go through the appointment process. The only thing I will ask on behalf of myself, who is coming up for election in January, is that choose not to run against a sitting judge. Go for that open seat if it's available. All right. All right.
All
Thanks,
right. Well,
everybody.
thank you, judges, and thank you, everyone, for attending. I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye-bye.